You have to understand something on a deeper level. When you're always available, always giving, always showing up no matter what, you're not creating value. You're creating comfort. And comfort, when it's unearned, makes people lazy. It makes them stop trying. It makes them stop appreciating. Because in their mind, they already have you. They don't have to work for your attention. They don't have to earn your time. They don't even have to respect your effort because you're giving it freely. And that right there is where everything starts to go wrong. See, the moment you start pulling back, the moment you stop overgiving, something shifts. Not just in him, but in you. Because now, instead of chasing, you're observing. Instead of proving your worth, you're recognizing it. And when that shift happens, your energy changes. You're no longer operating from a place of need, you're operating from a place of power. And people feel that. Oh, they feel that immediately. When you detach, you're not disappearing, you're creating space. Space for him to think, space for him to feel, space for him to realize what your presence actually meant. Because when you were always there, he didn't have to think about you. You were already in his life, already responding, already giving him reassurance. But now there's a gap. Now there's silence. And that silence starts to echo in his mind. He starts noticing the little things, the messages that aren't coming in anymore, the attention that used to be automatic, the way you used to check on him, laugh with him, give him that energy. And suddenly, it's gone. And that's when it hits him. Not all at once, but slowly and then all at once. He starts wondering why. He starts questioning himself. Did she lose interest? Did I mess this up? Is she talking to someone else? And that curiosity begins to grow. Here's the truth most people don't realize. People are driven by what they feel they might lose, not what they already have. When something feels secure, guaranteed, always there, it doesn't create urgency. But when that same thing starts to slip away, when it feels uncertain, when it feels like it might not be there tomorrow, that's when the mind starts racing. That's when emotions start getting involved. That's when someone starts to go crazy trying to figure it out. And the reason this works isn't because you're playing a game. It's because you finally stopped overextending yourself. You've stopped investing where you're not being valued. You've stopped giving energy to someone who hasn't shown they deserve it. That's not manipulation. That's self-respect. That's growth. Because let me tell you something. When you're constantly giving more than you're receiving, you slowly lose yourself. You start questioning your worth. You start overthinking every little thing. Why isn't he texting? Why is he acting different? What did I do wrong? And the more you chase answers, the more control you give away, the more power you hand over. But the moment you step back, the moment you detach, you take that power back. Now you're not waiting for him. He's wondering about you. Now you're not overthinking. He's analyzing your silence. Now you're not chasing. He's trying to understand your distance. And that's a completely different position to be in. That's where respect starts to build. Because people respect what they can't control, what they can't predict, what they can't easily access. And here's something even more important. When you detach, you start pouring that same energy back into yourself, into your growth, your happiness, your peace. You start focusing on your life instead of revolving around someone else's. And that makes you glow differently. That makes you stand differently. That makes you move with confidence instead of doubt. And let me tell you, that kind of energy is magnetic. It pulls people in without you even trying. Because now you're not seeking attention, you're attracting it. You're not asking for validation, you're embodying it. And when he sees that, when he feels that shift, that's when everything changes for him. Now he's trying to get your attention back. Now he's noticing things he ignored before. Now he's putting in effort he never felt the need to put in. Because you're no longer giving him the same easy access. You're no longer predictable. You've become someone he has to figure out again. And that challenge, that uncertainty, that feeling of possibly losing you, that's what drives him crazy. But here's the most powerful part of all this. You're not doing it for him anymore. You're doing it for you. You're choosing peace over confusion. You're choosing self-respect over validation. You're choosing growth over attachment. And that mindset, that's what truly transforms everything. Because whether he comes back or not, you win. If he steps up, he meets a stronger version of you. And if he doesn't, you've already outgrown the situation. Either way, you're no longer stuck in a cycle of giving and hoping. You're moving forward with clarity, with strength, with control over your own life. So when you detach, don't think of it as losing something. Think of it as finally gaining yourself back. And trust me, the moment you stop giving your energy so freely is the exact moment he starts realizing just how valuable it really was. Let me tell you something real. Value isn't what you say you are. It's what you consistently show people you believe about yourself. And the truth is, the way you've been showing up has been telling him everything he needs to know. When you overgive, when you always make yourself available, when you keep pouring into someone who isn't matching your energy, you're silently communicating that your time, your attention, your presence is not that rare. And if it's not rare, it's not respected the way it should be. But the moment you detach, the moment you step back and stop overextending yourself, something powerful begins to happen. You stop convincing and you start revealing. You reveal your value not through words, but through your absence, your standards, your boundaries. Because now, instead of constantly showing him what you're willing to give, you're showing him what he has to earn. See, a high-value woman doesn't run after attention. She doesn't chase validation. She doesn't try to prove her worth over and over again. She understands something most people don't, that real value is felt, not forced. And when you detach, you allow that feeling to develop naturally. You give him the opportunity to experience what it's like when you're not so easily accessible. And that experience, that's what changes everything. Because now you're no longer predictable. You're no longer someone he can figure out in 5 seconds. You're not replying instantly. You're not always initiating. You're not always giving that same level of energy. And that shift creates curiosity. It creates intrigue. It creates a sense of mystery that wasn't there before. And people are drawn to mystery. They lean into what they don't fully understand. He starts asking himself questions he never had to ask before. Why isn't she as available? What changed? Did I do something wrong? And those questions start to build tension in his mind. Because now, instead of feeling secure in your attention, he feels uncertain. And uncertainty, that's what creates attraction at a deeper level. But here's the key. Detaching doesn't mean becoming cold or playing games. It means becoming selective. It means recognizing that your energy is valuable and not everyone deserves unlimited access to it. You're not ignoring him to get a reaction. You're simply aligning your actions with your worth. You're no longer giving 100% to someone who's giving you 30%. You're matching energy or you're stepping back. And when you do that, you naturally elevate your position. Because now he has to step up if he wants to keep you engaged. Now he has to show effort, consistency, and intention. And if he doesn't, you're not chasing him down trying to fix it. You're simply moving differently. You're focusing on your own life, your own growth, your own peace. That's what makes you stand out. Because most people don't have the discipline to do that. Most people stay stuck in that cycle of overgiving, hoping that one day it'll be enough, hoping that if they just try a little harder, care a little more, show a little more love, things will change. But the truth is, overgiving doesn't create value. It creates imbalance. Detaching corrects that imbalance. It resets the dynamic. It puts you back in alignment with yourself. And when you're aligned with yourself, everything about you changes. The way you talk, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond, it all reflects a higher level of self-respect. And let me tell you something, self-respect is one of the most attractive qualities you can have because it sets the standard for how others treat you. If you don't respect your time, your energy, your emotions, why would anyone else? But when you do, when you start moving with intention and boundaries, people can feel that. They can see that you're not someone they can take lightly. Now he starts noticing the difference. The way you're not as easy to reach, the way you're not always available, the way you're not chasing his attention anymore. And that difference makes him pay attention in a way he didn't before. Because now he realizes that your presence is something he could actually lose. And that realization shifts his behavior. He starts reaching out more. He starts putting in effort. He starts trying to reconnect, not because you forced him to, but because he feels the change. He feels the gap that your detachment created, and that gap makes him want to close the distance. But here's the most important part. You're not waiting around for that to happen. You're not sitting there hoping he notices. You've already shifted your focus. You've already decided that your life doesn't revolve around his actions. You're building your own happiness, your own peace, your own fulfillment, and that's what truly builds your value, not just in his eyes, but in your own. Because when you start valuing yourself, when you start prioritizing your own well-being, you stop accepting less than you deserve. You stop settling for inconsistency, for mixed signals, for half effort. Detaching isn't about making him chase you. It's about making sure you never have to chase anyone again. It's about becoming so aligned with your worth that the right people naturally step up and the wrong ones fall away without you having to force anything. So when you step back, when you create that space, understand what you're really doing. You're not losing connection. You're redefining it. You're showing him, without saying a word, that your presence is valuable, your time is limited, and your energy is not something to be taken for granted. And once he feels that, once he truly understands that you're not as accessible as you used to be, that's when he starts to see you differently. That's when he starts to go a little crazy, trying to get back what he once had so easily. And the difference now is, it's no longer easy. Let me break something down for you. The moment you detach, the entire dynamic shifts in a way most people don't even realize. Before, you were the one thinking about him all the time. You were the one checking your phone, wondering when he's going to text, replaying conversations in your head, trying to figure out what he meant, what he felt, what he was going to do next. You were investing your energy into someone who wasn't giving you that same level of certainty. And without even noticing, you handed over the power. But the second you step back, the second you detach, everything flips. Now you're not the one waiting, he is. Now you're not the one overthinking, he's the one trying to make sense of your silence. And let me tell you something, silence is powerful. Silence forces people to think. It forces them to confront what they feel, what they've done, and what they might lose. Because when you were always there, he didn't have to question anything. He knew you were going to respond. He knew you were going to show up. He knew you weren't going anywhere. And that level of certainty made him comfortable, maybe too comfortable. But now that you've stepped back, now that you've pulled your energy away, that comfort turns into uncertainty. He starts noticing things he never paid attention to before. The quiet moments where your messages used to be, the absence of your presence in his daily routine, the lack of that emotional connection he got so used to. And at first, he might try to ignore it. He might tell himself it's nothing. But over time, that silence starts to get louder. It starts to sit with him. It starts to bother him in ways he didn't expect. He begins to ask questions. Why did she pull back? Did I do something wrong? Is she talking to someone else? Did I lose her? And those questions don't come with easy answers because you're not there anymore to explain yourself, to reassure him, to make things easy. You've stepped out of that role. And now he has to sit with his own thoughts because before you were reacting to him. Your mood depended on his actions. Your peace depended on his consistency. But now he's reacting to you. His thoughts are centered around your absence. His emotions are triggered by your distance. And that reversal is what creates that intense feeling, that feeling of losing control. So now he starts trying to regain that control. He might reach out more. He might start doing things he never did before. He might try to get your attention in subtle ways, testing to see if you'll respond the same way you used to. Because in his mind, he's trying to understand if he still has access to you, if he still has that influence. You're not jumping to respond. You're not giving him that same immediate attention. You're not feeding into that old dynamic. And that's what confuses him even more, because now the patterns he relied on are gone. The predictability is gone. And all that's left is uncertainty, because the human mind is wired to seek answers. When something feels incomplete, when something feels unresolved, it keeps coming back to it over and over again, trying to understand, trying to figure it out, trying to find closure. And when you detach, you create that exact situation. You leave a gap that he can't easily fill. He starts thinking about you more. He starts replaying moments. He starts remembering the way you made him feel, the way you showed up, the way you gave him that attention without him even asking for it. And now that it's gone, he realizes the impact it actually had. But here's the real power move. You're not doing any of this to manipulate him. You're not trying to control his reaction. You're simply reclaiming your own energy. You're stepping out of a position where you were giving too much and receiving too little. And in doing that, you naturally shift the entire dynamic. And that decision becomes clear when you're not constantly filling the gaps for them, when you're not constantly making it easy for them to stay in your life without effort, when you're not constantly giving them reassurance without them earning it. He has to decide if you're worth the effort, if you're worth the attention, if you're worth stepping up for. And that's a position you always deserve to be in. Not chasing, not convincing, not proving, but being chosen. And if he feels like he's losing you, if he realizes that your presence isn't guaranteed anymore, that's when his actions start to change. That's when he starts putting in effort, because now there's something at stake. You're no longer attached to the outcome. You're no longer dependent on his actions to feel secure. You've found that stability within yourself. And that's what makes this whole shift so powerful, because you're not detaching to get a reaction. You're detaching because you've outgrown the need to hold on. And when someone feels that, when they realize that you're no longer emotionally dependent on them, that's when they start to go a little crazy. Because now they're the one trying to hold on. They're the one trying to figure you out. They're the one trying to get back to what used to be. Let me tell you the part most people don't talk about. Detaching isn't just about what happens to him, it's about what happens to you. Because somewhere along the way, when you were giving too much, when you were constantly thinking about him, waiting on him, trying to figure him out, you started losing pieces of yourself. Your peace got replaced with anxiety. Your confidence started depending on his attention. Your happiness became tied to his actions. And that's a dangerous place to be in. When you finally decide to step back, when you stop investing all your energy into someone who isn't matching you, something inside you starts to come back to life. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You might still think about him. You might still feel the urge to reach out. You might still wonder what he's doing. But instead of acting on those feelings, you sit with them. And that's where your strength begins to build. Because every time you choose not to chase, every time you choose yourself over your impulses, you're rebuilding your self-respect. You're proving to yourself that you don't need constant validation to feel worthy. You're reminding yourself that your value doesn't come from how someone else treats you. It comes from how you treat yourself. You start pouring that same energy back into your own life. You start doing things that make you feel good, things that make you grow, things that bring you peace. Maybe it's working on your goals. Maybe it's improving your mindset. Maybe it's just enjoying your own company without feeling like something is missing. And the more you do that, the less space he takes up in your mind. Not when you force yourself to ignore him, not when you pretend you don't care, but when you genuinely start caring more about yourself than the situation. When your happiness is no longer dependent on what he does or doesn't do. When your peace becomes your priority. When you're no longer seeking attention, when you're no longer chasing, when you're no longer emotionally dependent, your energy becomes different. You move differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that doesn't need validation. And that kind of energy is powerful. It stands out. Now when he looks at you, he doesn't see the same person who was always available, always waiting, always giving. He sees someone who has boundaries, someone who respects themselves, someone who doesn't need him to feel complete. And that realization hits deep. And when someone realizes that they could actually lose you, that's when their behavior starts to change. He might start reaching out more. He might try to get your attention. He might even start doing the things you wished he did before. But this time, it's not because you asked for it. It's because he feels the shift. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. You're not doing this to make him react. You're doing this to protect your peace. Because whether he comes back or not, your life keeps moving. Your growth doesn't stop. Your happiness doesn't depend on his decision. Because now you're no longer afraid of losing him. You're no longer holding on out of fear. You're standing in your own value, knowing that the right person will meet you at your level, not make you chase them to get there. And if he steps up, if he comes back with real effort, consistency, and intention, then you get to decide. Not from a place of need, but from a place of strength. You get to choose whether he aligns with the version of you that you've become. You don't break. You don't fall apart. You don't lose yourself again. Because you've already built something stronger within you. You've already learned how to stand on your own, how to create your own peace, how to validate yourself without needing anyone else to do it for you. So when you step back, when you choose yourself, understand what you're really doing. You're breaking old patterns. You're healing parts of yourself that were used to settling for less. You're raising your standards without saying a word.